record on this computer. Good morning, everybody, and happy Mother's Day. I'm here with Sterling.
Morning, everybody, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
All the mothers. So thank you. We got a list of questions because people
Absolutely.
had wrote in.
An expert job done by Daniel, and
Daniel.
preparing it all, so thanks to Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel. He helps oversee. He watches my back.
Very good.
So he did a good job. You and Linda helped too, your wife.
Right.
So, okay, so we're just going to go through the questions. This isn't about me. This is about Sterling. If I actually hear something, I'll probably say it. You know me with my big mouth. But I want Sterling to ask his guys because he does very good spontaneous. Okay, Sterling, first question. Does Trump really know and understand how much he is hated and despised by the majority of Americans?
He does, but he operates under kind of a different conviction. So he doesn't operate kind of in the same moral sense and character that a lot of us operate.
Right.
He's really raised around, monetary gains, and so he used a completely different sense of logic and empathy than most people. It's very unique. Only a few unique people on this earth have that kind of lack of empathy. So
right, he does. And I even saw on the news today them asking him, so what are you doing for Melania for Mother's Day? He said he has a big meeting with the top meeting.
Yeah.
So that's as far as he goes with Mother's Day. And then you got the governor of New York talking about, yeah, he was on today about his mother. He had his mother on and about how you got to have love. It's kumbaya.
It's great. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. So as we are seeing COVID-19 in the White House, how many will get sick? Anyone seriously sick in the White House?
Yeah, I see. So there's been a handful of people that have been COVID-19 positive so far. I see there's an additional 6 that we're going to see become
big names, or just like
people within the White House, directly within the White House. Interestingly enough, it looks like Trump has already had COVID-19, but he had the milder form. So it's the form that's...
Okay, so he didn't get real sick. I never saw him getting real sick with it.
Yeah, no, either did I, but it looks like to me when I did work on this, he actually had it, a mild form. And then remember some of the times, was it March, April, he would exit meetings very, very quickly in the very beginning. They were trying to quarantine him and get him out of the way. So he had some symptoms, but he had the milder form. So
interesting. Okay. And there's 16 Secret Service, and those Secret Service, they work hard to get where they're at. There's a lot of training.
Sure.
It's like all the doctors and nurses that you just don't become that. You go to school and walk out the door. It takes a lot of training before you get as good as you get. And that's sad. That's sad.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, and you just said, you answered the next question. Has Trump already been infected? And you just answered it. Will any of Trump's children go to jail?
There's going to be a lot of them tied up in court. I see like a lot of legal negotiations, a lot of court trials. But in the end, what I see is really no significant prison time, but a lot of assets being seized. So a lot of assets are going to be tied up.
That's
These
what I thought too.
Made overseas, here and domestically. And so what I'll call is going to be a real spree on asset seizures across the Trump empire. Could even affect the hotel that he has in Washington, the one he built a couple of blocks in the White House. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've often saw that he was going to get ruined financially.
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty, but there'll be some form of equity for a lot of people. That
the one I feel, believe it or not, in some horrible trouble is Jared.
Yeah, he's actually going to be in as deep as Trump.
Okay.
When this all comes out, because he's actually been doing a lot of things under the coaching of Trump. So.
Okay. So here's the next question. Sterling, how bad is it going to get with Trump and his administration? Are they trying to tear him down? Are they trying to tear down the House of Representatives? What about all the judges he's appointing?
So Um, so no direct being able to tear down the lower house of Congress, the House of Representatives. No ability to be able to tear it down. He's certainly doing a lot of things to work against what's happening. Um, the good news is that he's going to run out of runway here very soon, like about 7 more months. I think by the time we get to the convention, he's going to be a bit of a lame duck because the Republican Party is going to be really all over him. They don't think they can win with him. But as far as a lot of the court actions and things going on, as we get down the end of the year here, it's going to be diminished effect. So if that
Right.
makes
I
sense.
also see the new administration reversing all the ones that were not qualified.
They will. A lot of challenges going on.
Yeah. What can we expect for the economy in the United States?
So if that's almost a two-part answer. So there's like short-term and long-term. I would say, so short-term, if you talk about this year through the end of, the third quarter and fourth quarter, there's a lot of, startup happening. I saw originally, I think this is still holding true, that by June 30th, we'd see a lot of the nation open up. So, kind of restaurants and even theme parks, believe it or not, and things like
Really?
that now.
Okay.
With a whole different standard of separation and limitations on quantity of people being admitted. So I saw by June 30th, a lot of that happening. As we get to the third and fourth quarter, there's a lot of kind of startup in the economy. We'll see, for example, productions coming back, TV and film. We'll see some of the high value productions that the larger studios need to get done. That'll start happening towards the end of the year, October-ish. And we'll see a lot of unemployment still for the year, but business will be starting up. So
It's not going to be magically overnight.
no, and then if we get outside of this year, we probably got a 2-year run in order to kind of get the whole economy, for the most part, restored. It's going to be a different economy, but it'll be functioning in a way that feels a lot healthier to people. The income streams will be there. A lot of changes in the landscape of businesses. So retail business we knew were there will be gone. You saw a lot of major retailers declared bankruptcy already.
J.C. Penney's just did bankruptcy.
Neiman Marcus was on the list, and lots of companies. So it'll be a different movie theater chains like AMC. I think they're going bankruptcy. So lots of.
No, you know what I just saw when you were talking?
Mhm.
I just saw somebody whispered in my ear. If you have some sort of a screenplay or something that you want to present, kind of like right after this is the time to do it, because they're going to take a lot of new ideas with a little cheaper part of it where you don't have to have big names. Does that make sense?
100%.
Thank you. I'm not affiliated with motion pictures or television, but I can see all of a sudden all these people are coming out of the woodwork, are writing fantastic stories, and they're getting picked up, but they don't necessarily have big names immediately.
Exactly, because there'll be a real demand for content streaming. The whole binging that's been going on streaming. So you need a lot more content. So that's a good thing. So it's a changing of the landscape.
It is. So okay, now so this is an interesting one. A man wrote, "I'm in a small family dairy farmer. I'd like to have Sterling read on the USDA, Department of Agriculture, the Global Corporate Agriculture Behemoth." What's that? BEHEMOTH. Maybe it's a typo.
That's the leader of the USDA, I think, right now, isn't it?
I don't know. Who are they? Question mark. When will they win out over more regional and sustainable family farming practices? Question mark. The future of food. Interesting.
Yeah. So big upheaval in kind of the food supply chain, as we've seen, in terms of we saw with Tyson and some of the pork and a lot of the meat supply chain. But I see a massive change in the industry in terms around security and food safety, which they haven't. There's been food safety guidelines, but now with COVID-19, they've got to double down. So
right.
A lot of money
and Trump deleted a lot of them.
Right. So much more around food safety, managing the food supply chain in a way that's certainly safe from COVID-19, but then going forward, any other pandemic spreads. So I do see more investment coming into the food industry to make that happen. And that's kind of a gradual shift here. So it's a little rough as we kind of get through towards the end of the year. But I do see a lot of that happening, and more concern, more investment in the food supply chain.
Right. And our farmers. But I do see the farmers, initially, like right now, I feel mass amounts trying to go to other countries. I'm
Mhm.
feeling like they bring it in, like they're
Absolutely.
dealing more with the United States. And we buy up our own produce from our own people, not getting it from other countries. That's what I'm seeing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I see that, the amount that we bring in as opposed to even send out, same thing,
Right,
a lot of that's slowing down both directions.
right, right. Okay. Um, Oh, that's interesting. When do you see TV and film industry beginning to film again? And is there going to be restrictions? We just talked about that, so more or less, didn't we?
Yeah, big changes, third quarter, we'll see a lot of that start to open up. And then certainly by the end of the year, a lot more of, I said, yeah, the streaming content, it's almost two sides, plus the high value content, the content that the studios feel they can make more money with.
I
So
just saw 3 people who are nobodies in the industry right now get huge.
yeah, and that's,
Boom, boom, boom.
and it's interesting. This is all part of the way this pandemic is changing the world. And every facet of the world, every element, every corner, it's all being changed and rewritten. So
Wow. Okay. Now, what will dating look like post COVID-19? I think that the question here should be, will we actually have an inoculation, a vaccine? Because if we do, why would dating change?
yeah, so that's a gradual shift, but obviously it's going to be much more remote and digital and that. But I think there'll probably be some sort of an in-between period here, even before the vaccine's available, where the combination of testing and there's contactless thermometers, right? You can measure someone's temperature and safety. So it's definitely a shift in the social norm,
Mhm.
but that's the way of the world. I think everything will be shifted, just like dating.
Yes, yes. Let's see. Is this evolving COVID-19 debatable, making Trump's loss potentially greater than what you saw a week ago?
Yeah, what I get on that pretty clearly is that there was a lot of harm done to Trump's base during March and April with the way the whole COVID-19 was handled, and there's so many things happening there that a lot of people's minds have been made up. So I guess in answer to the question, was there a big mind shift like the last week or two? I don't see that. I think a lot of people's minds have been made up.
Well,
Just
because his people will stick with him, period. But I felt a real shock and awe when he said we need to inject Clorox or whatever. I saw
yeah,
that like I heard that dropping, like people were dropping him. Like this guy's a
yeah.
whack job. We got to get
And I
him out of
think
here.
with what's happened here with all the stimulus payments and the fact that it hasn't been handled very well throughout the economy, a lot of people still haven't got checks, the unemployment, the food lines, there's really no food shortage, but if you can't pay for food, that's a food shortage for your family.
Exactly.
So a lot of people have had their minds made up. So not a big shift in the last 2 weeks, I guess is the answer.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's see. Okay. Are there any potential shocking setbacks for Trump to the point where he might rethink leaving before the election?
No, quite honestly, I think we talked about this before. I mean, last
Yeah.
week it's like a dog with a bone. He's not letting that bone go.
He doesn't care what they say.
Right, and he's already kind of, he's dealing with everything from a false sense of reality, in terms
Yeah.
of what can really be done. And yeah, it's all about, you probably saw Obama. Obama was, the quote from Obama last night, he was on a conference call with 100 of his closest allies. And
Yeah.
somebody recorded the call and it got on Yahoo News last night. But Obama said, look, the whole administration is all about what's in it for me. So because of that, they're going to keep it moving forward. What can we get out of this right to the very end?
Like you said about Mitch McConnell wanting to get those judges in.
Right.
But I think he loses by such a great amount, and a lot of Republicans will lose too. That's when I felt like he may exit with no formal leaving, that kind of energy.
Yeah, no, I see that happening in the very end. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I would tell, and I think other people have said this, can't take anything for granted. I really feel there's going to be a new White House, a new administration. But I also know that There's a lot of, I'll call trickery. We'll see what's happening with the voting systems and all that. So
Right.
everybody's got to be on their best game to make sure votes are counted. And California just went to mail-in ballots. So everybody's got to be on their best game to make sure that all the votes get counted.
Yeah. I see people coming out. They don't care.
Right.
Just like with Wisconsin. He
Right.
said, oh, we got to have that judge in, that conservative judge to protect your Second Amendment rights. And if you notice, even in 2018, almost everybody he went out and said, vote for so-and-so, they all lost. So,
Right.
okay. So please clarify why aliens don't interfere with all the nuclear mishaps. Also, is there ET in our DNA?
It's a two-part question.
Uh-huh.
So what happens with the aliens is that really they're bent on making sure there isn't a mass destruction of the universe
Mhm.
and mass destruction of Earth. And so a lot of times, if there's a threat of a nuclear holocaust, let's call it, so that means multiple nations getting involved, they absolutely step in. But there's also a dividing line there. I've heard that they won't get involved in situations that involve man's learning. So if there's something has to do with a specific event, could be a nuclear problem with a nuclear power plant, or there's something where they can't get involved, what has to do with the nature of kind of man learning lessons as they go along.
Right.
They'll step in to stop the annihilation of the world.
Well, there's been plenty of documentation that they've been over places that had nukes, and they came and shut it down, and the military was going crazy. They turned it off and shut it down and turned it off and turned it back on, and they're like, whoa.
Yeah, and that's easy for them based on the technology they have. And it's interesting. There's a lot of information leaking out to the public now, and a lot of good video footage of all the, whether it was, I think it was the governor of Phoenix or Arizona at one time, actually reported a UFO, and they had pictures of it. And there's a lot coming out now where they can't hide it anymore. So,
I gotta say, I was up in the air, and then I used those military goggles. Antenna and I were up in Arizona, and I saw 53 UFOs. And you knew they were UFOs because two ships were going up, and then they go opposite directions.
Yeah, and there was also a major sighting. This is all in the press in Israel, where a big light beam dropped down over the city and then shot up in the air. And
yeah, I love it. I love it. Somebody told me that Chernobyl, that was in the newspapers, and I asked a Russian woman, and she said it was true, that in Chernobyl, when the accident happened, there was actually a very large ship trying to take as much as the radiation, sitting over the breakdown, trying to take up, and it was witnessed and photographed. It was in the newspapers, but I haven't seen it since, but somebody told me it was true. Well, so they might help with the radiation.
I think there was a second part of that question I was going to answer regarding DNA, ET DNA?
Yeah.
And the answers that I got back were that, going back thousands of years, that it's already some of that circulating amongst us as human beings. So there is some of that going on. So
like we were a different kind of form, human form, and with the DNA from the ETs, we developed into this form. So we're all part of it?
Yeah, no, I don't. Not everybody's part of it.
Because I think one of my ex-husbands still is a low form of. I'm just teasing.
I'll take that, but yeah, there's an element of the DNA that was mixed going back thousands of years. Yeah.
Isn't it? Okay. Will we be able to prove that, you think, down the road?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Can you tell us what happens when animals cross over?
Yeah, and this question comes up semi-regularly. Animals travel in our same spiritual family. So actually, as they cross over, they usually cross over just like the people and our relatives and our loved ones, and it's our family there to greet them. So it's all part of the spiritual family. And many times I read on people, and they'll say, "Can you talk to my mother or my father that passed away?" And usually before we're done with the discussion, the mother or the father will say, "By the way, I have all your animals here, and I've got..."
Yeah, I've had that happen. Yeah. I even have them coming forward holding an animal.
And sometimes it's funny, like, just so wink, wink, I got all your animals here. Not like I wanted all your animals, that they're all with me. So they do cross over. they stay with a spiritual family, and a lot of them have jobs. So some of them that are very evolved when they're here on Earth may be asked to help other animals cross over.
Oh,
When they
okay.
cross over. And we had a dog. Paris was a dog. We had a Mastiff that very soon after she passed on, we got that she was helping other animals pass over. So yeah, they travel with our spiritual family. So hopefully
I bet
that's,
people break out crying more about the animal than they did their lost human family.
you know it.
And I've actually had people who didn't like animals on Earth that
Mhm.
are letting their loved one know. To their surprise, the animals are there too. It sometimes it shocks them. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, I see that, and all sorts of animals too. Dogs, cats, birds, horses,
I've seen a lot
turtles.
of horses. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just everything. Yeah.
Okay. So what is the future of Puerto Rico, my friend? God love Puerto Rico.
Yeah. So, I mean, no secret, a lot of weather events and a lot of earth events have affected Puerto Rico. So, I mean, we all know that the earthquake, and was that Hurricane Maria? I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember.
And it
Uh,
doesn't help that this administration
yeah. And
absolutely
so
could care less about them.
the good news for Puerto Rico, if you can call it any kind of good news, is they're going to go through a complete shift in kind of their power infrastructure.
That's
So
what I was
what I
feeling
see
too.
is them as a lot of solar. So now they've been forced, like no other place on the planet, we can't rely on power grids and power plants and power lines. But now, we're going to really build out everything so it's solar. So a lot of localized solar. And I saw that happening like over the next 4 to 5 years, that they're actually going to really be able to turn the corner because, without power and infrastructure, you can't do anything. You can't build the
Right.
roads. You can't. So I saw a big solar push around Puerto Rico as one of the big things that will
I
be
see a
possible.
lot of people traveling there too to visit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the weather events aren't going to stop, and the earth events around Puerto
No,
Rico.
no,
Just the way
but
it
I
is.
do I see them being a land unto themselves. They can handle all the drama.
Exactly.
What is the future for Italy, Australia, and Canada?
So, not unlike the whole world, but I think there's some nuances among all those. So, not unlike what's happening with the U.S. and the COVID-19, the worldwide pandemic is slowing everything down. If you look at Italy, they just had a big political shift over there, and I think is it Conti is his last name. They had a new premier, a new president come in 2018. So
Uh,
there's a shift in the political party in Italy, but because of all the worldwide pandemic problems and their economy is ground to a halt, confidence is an issue. So they got a building process over the next 2 years to kind of
yeah,
bring back everybody's confidence with the new political party. I saw that, but they're
and
also
they
going to,
really depend on tourists, and they're not getting them.
yeah, and I think they're going to have be a lot more scrutiny around the healthcare system. And if anybody's going to be double down on health scrutiny, will be Italy, because they, obviously they had one of the worst problems with COVID-19.
Exactly.
So I guess on Italy, there's the new political. Uh, I think Conti's his last name. Some of the correct Giuseppe Conti. I'm going from memory
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Regarding Canada, so I mean they're being hurt by kind of the worldwide trade, so that their GDP is way down in Canada, and obviously they got a confidence problem too. So a lot of the similar problems that the U.S. has, but I do see that also they're kind of on a 2-year track to kind of get all that back. So
Okay.
as the world starts to open up, and then Australia. So the good news, all the fires are out in Australia. We know
Thank God.
that. New South Wales, but there again, that really affected the economy. So not just the worldwide pandemic, but then Australia had all the fires, and so that really messed up the agriculture and a lot of the infrastructure they had there. So consumer confidence is way down, like it is in many places. So I think Australia is going to come back. Everybody's kind of on a 2-year trajectory here, including the U.S. But kind of little different factors with every area.
Okay. Okay. And any messages from your guides to all of us?
Yes. So a very common message, and I see this come up a lot, is I'll say it's very simply put, trust in the universe, because the universe can produce magic. I think a
Mhm.
lot of individuals feel that everything they see, hear, feel, touch in front of them is all there is. And the universe actually does bring forth magic, and you just have to allow it to happen. So it just requires kind of, a peaceful belief that the universe will bring it forward, and not try to second guess and not try to control every element in your life, kind of thing. But believe in the universe. That's one of the biggest
Well,
things.
that's where my guys who told me to do these videos, they had always said to me that I would help calm people down. But the most important thing is we can't be so reactive. We can't be
Right.
reacting to Flynn. Like when I started asking my guides about Flynn,
Yeah.
and they're like, it's okay.
Right.
All these people justice will be served. And look what happened to Biden. That's
Mhm.
almost like a miracle. He was looking so bad up on that stage, and all of a sudden it was like massive. People said,
Right.
you know what? It's like a wave. And it's almost like he was chosen and he has no choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in a way, I think he was. But here's what the thing with Biden, it's not that he's necessarily the huge, great provider, but he will pick an administration that rocks. That's what I saw.
He will. It's going to be, the start of a whole healing process for the nation.
Right.
But everybody has to remember to vote.
Oh, they will. It
Yeah.
won't be. The problem with Hillary was Russia got Hillary being so unappetizing. And
Right.
it didn't help with Comey with his thing. And what happened is people just didn't vote.
Mm-hmm.
Trump did not win Hillary even in numbers. He just won. And also a lot of that was helped with Russia. But remember 2018, it was a wave. He was out there begging people, you can't, or they're going to impeach me if you don't vote, and
Yep.
guess what happened? So listen, one last thing before we go, I wanted to ask you, it's not on your list. I had a weird dream last night, and I dreamt I was visiting a friend in Livermore, California.
Okay.
And I was going on 580 up an incline, and it's a freeway, and you get up on the top and you can kind of see the whole Bay Area. And I live in Sonoma County, which is to your right, which is further over there, over the bridges, past, as you land into Marin County. As soon as I hit on the top of that incline, the sky was black, and it was smoke, black smoke. And in the dream, I thought, oh, because I hadn't known if it hit Sonoma. I knew it was in the Bay Area. But I remember thinking, here we go again, fires again. Is that a prophecy, or was that something else?
It's interesting. They just told me it's something quite different. So
Okay.
when you crested the hill, but you never drove through it, right?
No, I got to the top and saw the blackness, and I
Yeah.
could even kind of smell the smoke.
And so, well, my guys just told me was a representation that as soon as you were to drive through that smoke, you would have seen beautiful sunset, a beautiful horizon. It's almost like getting through all the troubled times.
We're
You're coming
going
up
through
on
right
on
now,
flat
yeah.
curtain, but you just drive through it, and you would have seen the other side.
Interesting. Okay, so it wasn't literal, like we're going to have fires again.
No, I didn't see that as a literal. Not to say there won't be some fires, but I feel that the nature of the dream was that you're being
We're going
encouraged
to have some more dark days coming up.
and then drive through the curtain and get to the other side.
That's like they tell me. Like I started to get panicked about Flynn. I read on him. I don't have any problem with that. But they were always, we'll tell you. It's almost like they get a little bit disrupted. They come from love. But it's
Mhm.
almost like they hate to see us put ourselves through this constant, oh my God. They don't like that because energetically it puts us in a state of resistance. That which is likened to itself is drawn. So you create more chaos. We're so picking on every single detail. It's nothing but chaos. It's almost like if you could relax and know for sure, be on a reasonable doubt, this guy's going, let him show his ass for the next 8 months. He'll be gone.
Yeah. Well, it's been an interesting ride for everybody. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, it was a delight seeing you again, my friend.
Always good. Happy Mother's Day again, and
Happy
to
Mother's Day.
all the mothers out there.
Okay, I'm stopping the video. Ciao.